There's this woman who grows up, who's growing up with a family, and she's always the person that her grandmother's saying is has a force, has a presence, has a magic about her, and she holds on to that, but amidst much disruption from her family and life, the way the hand that life has dealt her, it goes away for 17 years, and for 17 years she doesn't really do anything about this thing that her grandmother talked about, which is really her ingenuity, her ability to come up with ideas. And then she eventually does it, and then we watch throughout the movie her gain her confidence on her own and eventually become fulfill the potential that she always had inside of her. We like the idea of him being a kind of guy who, under more pressure, becomes as the pressure increases, he becomes more relaxed. Sort of liken him to certain coaches that we grew up with. There were a couple coaches I had that has had this way of just staying even keel amidst utter chaos. And we also like the idea of him being a guy that in some way mirrors Joy. He grew up in Detroit. He was an athlete. You get to know him through his college ring. That's the first shot. And he doesn't look like any of the other guys in the office. You know, much like Joy doesn't look like the other people that are selling products on QVC. And he was a guy who managed he was a buyer for Kmart, and then he started to manage Kmart stores. And then a guy named Barry Diller gave him an opportunity to do something completely new. And he's very aware of that guy giving him a chance. And it really was about rhythm and this idea of him being very relaxed, but at the same time having a tremendous amount of responsibility and just sort of running QVC, this sort of home television shopping network in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but running it as if it's Jack Warner, Daryl Zanuck. So that was interesting, that he really takes it very seriously. He's not messing around. He actually believes everything that he's saying. There's no irony in the way he talks. So that was a very interesting and challenging thing to do. A lot of the stuff in the movie that you would think is fictionalized actually occurred. That she actually did have to go to California and confront that guy. She did have to read through all the paperwork when she was filing for bankruptcy. She did go to California and try to get her molds back, and the guy actually ran away, and there was a car chase, and she rear-ended him. I mean, it was really just, and she was put in jail because who's going to believe this woman from out of state as opposed to this guy who's lived there and has the molds. It's really interesting what she's had to go through. She's kind of the best, really, at what she does. She has this ability to dive into a situation, an imaginary circumstance, and make it real. And you believe what she's saying, and you really can't, the camera loves her, you can't take your eyes off her. And she just has this grounding, very rooted way of walking through a movie. And the same thing that I encounter with Robert De Niro. I found them to be very similar in terms of the way they approach the work. And I think that's probably partly why David works with them again and again. So to me, to be able to make a movie with them, either one of them, I would do anything. He has a singular voice that you can see by one frame of the film. There's certain directors where you watch, the first minute of the movie and you can probably name who directed that, and Dave is one of those people. But at the same time, all of his films are completely different from one another. He's a pure auteur. I mean, he has a voice, he has a point of view, and that's what you're looking for as an actor in terms of if you're working with a director. Joy is a combination of a couple women, I think, in David's life that he sort of looked up to and sits in true admiration for. And I certainly have that in my life. And I think it's important to tell those stories. It sheds a light on the sort of probably harsh reality that a woman has to go through, and really anybody entrepreneurial, but specifically a woman in this day and age, even though it's set over 40 years.